My name is Dr. Jolie Rocke, and I am the founder of HBCU Arts. We are a program which is a program of driven theater company based in Houston, Texas. And our mission is to promote, showcase, and empower students, alumni, and faculty from HBCUs. And so we're starting this year with our fundraising drive, having the HBCU Arts Festival, and next year we'll be back in Martha's Vineyard and in Houston with our first cohorts, which is going to be a program where we bring faculty, students, and alumni together to do the arts and get them to the business of the arts and to help them build audiences. And so I am not going to talk anymore, but I am. There's a couple of things I'm just going to mention. I'm going to mention that CAAPA is hosting this event right now, and CAAPA is the Coalition for African Americans in the Performing Arts. They're based in the Washington, D.C. metro area, and Maryland, and so forth. And so we're really excited that for our partnership and collaboration, and thank them for being here. And this quilt that we're looking at right here was created and donated to us by Edgenetta Miller. She's a Smithsonian award-winning and hung all over the world. Her work is hung. She's phenomenal. She's a friend. And to help support HBCU Arts, she created and donated this. This is particularly an important quilt because it's the first time that she's worked with digital images in her work. And so she's going into a new era of her work, a new phase. And so we are super excited to have acquired the quilt. The quilt will be donated to our highest donor that has to donate a minimum of $20,000. And so we're really excited to someday find that person. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the founder of Driven Theater Company based in Houston, Texas, and my colleague, Hemphill Dickson. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Driven Theater Company is excited to host and collaborate with these folks for HBCU Arts in order to have this conversation today. Our goal is really for me to facilitate a conversation. I am not the expert. They are not the experts. You are not the experts. We're all here to have a conversation together about why HBCUs and arts, why are we even having this conversation? And Dr. Rocke, Jolie's goal to help artists go beyond the art that they learn in the classroom, to collaborate with organizations and to grow as artists as they move into their careers. So let me ask you guys before we hear from these folks, how many of you are artists? Most of us are artists, even if we don't know they're artists. Awesome. And how many of us went to HBCUs? Okay. How many of us went to HBCU homecomings? Okay. Excellent. And one more. How many of us are lovers of the arts in some form or another? Yeah. Right, so we have the right people in the room to have this conversation today. So why don't we start with an introduction of yourselves by name and the company that you're with and your role in that company, and then we'll go from there. How about that? That sound okay? Excellent.
Hello, my name is Renee Simpson. I am Vice Chair of the CAAPA, the Coalition for African Americans in the Performing Arts. I'm also the Program Director for the CAAPA Masterclass series. It is a series where we give, at this point in time, vocal masterclasses to HBCUs for free. They do not pay a penny. We bring in a facilitator, we pay for their travel costs and their hotel and their fee. And they come in, and it's a facilitator of color. Let me just specify that. Facilitator of color to come into these schools that normally someone coming in of note, let's just say a Lawrence Brownlee, will come into the school and he would also do a recital, and they would have to pay anywhere near $6,000 to have him come, or more, to have him come and do a masterclass and recital. So CAAPA came with the idea to connect with our collegiate students to come into these schools that don't get the funding that they need to bring these masterclasses in and offer them for free. I've been with CAAPA now for almost 14 years. I've been on the board for 13 years. And the Masterclass series has been around for almost 9 years now. We were first to bring the Masterclass series to HBCUs. And like I told Terri the other day, I told our executive board, this is my baby. So I'm very happy to be here, and I will pass it on.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Patrick Lee McCoy, and I recently had the amazing opportunity to return to my alma mater, where I graduated 23 years ago as a student, Virginia State University, as interim director of choral activities and instructor of voice. In addition to that, I am noted as an arts journalist covering the performing arts in the Washington, D.C. area and beyond, and I host a show called Across the Arts with Patrick Lee McCoy, entering international renowned artists in classical music.
Good afternoon. My name is Terri Allen, and I serve as the Executive Director for CAAPA. And you heard the Coalition for African Americans in the Performing Arts. We support Black classical musicians, youth, and others in the performing arts by bringing color to the classics. Can you all help me say that, please? What is CAAPA doing? Bringing color to the classics. Now look at your name and say, what is CAAPA doing? Bringing color to the classics. Yes, and if you think of our acronym, CAAPA, we do it by arts engagement, community engagement, arts education, audience development, performance opportunities, and arts partnerships. It is a blessing today to partner with HBCU Arts. Let's give Dr. Jolie Rocke a big hand for doing what she's doing. I would also be remiss if I did not introduce to you the co-founder of the Coalition for African Americans in Performing Arts. She herself is an opera singer, an educator, and a performer throughout the world. Panelists. She and her brother, Victor Simonson, founded this organization almost 20 years ago. Her brother just recently finished as the first Black conductor for the Broadway show Hamilton. Have you all heard of Hamilton? And he's now on tour with MJ as their conductor, MJ the musical. So they are also my children. I would also like to introduce to you our chair of our board of directors, the esteemed Reggie family. Let's give him a big hand. Thank you so much for doing what you do, and thank you again for having me here today.
My name is James Walker. I split my time in kind of a dual role, one as an entertainment lawyer, representing artists all over the world. I also spend my time investing in producing Broadway plays. We have everything from Sinatra coming out in Europe to Ain't Too Proud, Camelot, Here Lies Love, and then Jimmy Music.
Amen.
I just flew from Chicago and we opened MJ's National
Oh, we
Tour.
were there. Yes.
So we just opened MJ's National Tour in Chicago, and we're on Broadway over here in New York in a few months. I have to go back to New York to open MJ Musical. So I split my time in the arts as well as in the legal space representing the arts. And just have a lot of fun. Jolie has been a client of our legal firms, Dr. Rocke, for over, I think, 15, 20 years. We've done a ton of events together. We're trying to get her to open these back doors over here for me. So it's that burning up. But it's just an honor. When she called me 3 or 4 months ago and asked me to be a part of this, I put our whole legal team on it and said, Jolie, whatever you need, this is so extraordinary. And I just know we'll be telling the story one day. When we first started, it was about 100 people, and now we're standing up in the yard, and it's the biggest thing ever. I just know you can see that, just the feeling in the air. So the first time in the Vineyard, I see one of my bison there, just stand with the crap. Thank you for supporting us, Bison. Howard Bison. Appreciate you supporting us, but that's my life. We have Broadway plays, and we have our entertainment law firm representing plays, and singers and artists and producers and stuff. So I'm honored to be here. and can't wait for this panel as well as the program tonight that I saw Dr. Jolie Rocke in person for last night. It's just phenomenal. If you were in church here yesterday, she sang at church here, and it's just incredible. So thank you.
Driven Theater Company, like all of you and Dr. Rocke, and said, hey, we would like to do this thing. Although we've done a few projects before this one, Driven Theater's focus is issue-based theater and education that affects the individual, the family, and the community. So this program, for me, is about that, right? It's raising artists, the individual who affects the community, and then when we're happy as creatives, that informs our family life, right? So I was super excited to join her on this journey. Just hang on, because she's going, right?
Yes.
So why is this conversation about HBCUs and community-based organizations working together? Why is this an important relationship? Anyway.
I can take that question. Many years ago, when Angela we had a board meeting. I don't know whether any of you are familiar with George Shirley, the esteemed George Shirley, first tenor on the stages of the Metropolitan Opera, who was a board member, Angela Simpson, and then Issachar Savage, who's a world-renowned tenor, came up with the idea of the CAAPA Masterclass. So during my research, when developing the Masterclass with their idea, I found out that HBCUs traditionally, some of them have choirs, and you've heard about them touring and so forth, going on tour internationally, nationally, either choruses, choirs, you've all heard about them, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what I found out is this. I found out that the choirs or the choruses are funded individually. They're funded by endowments, philanthropists, donors, and they have a separate budget line. Then I found out that the music departments are funded under the auspices of the schools, and in many cases they're underfunded. So that's when CAAPA stepped in. We're an arts organization. We wanted to come to the collegiate community, and what better way to do that than to bring free, as Angela mentioned, free masterclass programs. And that's why an arts program, an arts organization such as ours is so important, because we stepped in where there was a void. And it was so very, very important to pick up where they fell short by bringing in these very fabulous Black classical musicians to an underserved community in many cases. And that's one way, just one way, how arts organizations are able to partner and bring HBCUs in a better way.
I would just chime in.
Let's agree to just chat, right? You don't have to answer the question. You said somebody said something, you want to go, oh. Feel free, okay? It's conversation.
I would just chime in to say, as a Howard grad, we see the work that Dr. Felicia Rashad is doing in the Fine Arts Department, and we also Chadwick Bozeman and Taraji and so many others have come through Howard. I like to see our HBCUs be as known as my other alma mater that I don't talk about. Yale, we talk about Yale Drama School. Everybody knows, oh, Meryl Streep went to Yale Drama School.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can name some of them. I want to see HBCUs get that signature association with. As soon as you hear a name, you think of that HBCU in that drama department. And I don't think we've done a very intentional thing, even myself. I'm on Broadway doing 7 plays. I haven't made it at the Howard Fine Arts Department yet. I don't even know if they know what we're doing, because we unfortunately just haven't done a good enough job as alumni and as our schools to make sure we plug into our alumni out there now. Yale, you know, almost every week asking for money or asking you to come to this or attend this or attend that. So I kind of joined this panel and this concept to try to bridge that gap between HBCUs and performance and theater and the arts, to start making it well known that we have us in this space, and we're trying to fill the key out. We are the only Black student on everyday musical, and it is probably the number one player walk right now. And I guarantee you, we are the only Black production producers being named in the book, Front Row Productions, on the whole gamut. And that's a good thing, but we want to see, if it's 20 producers, I want to see at least 5 of us in there. So women of color and things of that. So that's
James, I'd be curious, excuse me for interrupting, to find out on your team of Black excellence, how many of them are at our HBCUs. And that would be something that you could take in a marketing campaign, you could put it into a press release and get it out there. Perhaps you could do a documentary.
My right hand, or probably her right hand, Aaliyah Jones Harvey, is a spelling graph. And Aaliyah's been on Broadway for almost 20 years. She's out of New York, she went to Spelman, she did Cat on the Hot Tin Roof, she did Mandela recently in London, and she was the one that started the whole 10 pictures that you proud.
Yes.
And then I came in on her tail. So she's a spelling graph.
Well, that's two.
I just wanted to add, I did not go to an HBCU. I'm originally from New York. And as one of the few people of color in my department, I started off as a Met-Cell. I was the only Met-Cell there for a very long time. And we didn't have master classes. We had opera workshop, we had all the other activities, but we didn't have master classes. If I wanted to go to a master class, I would have to go to Juilliard. And even then, if you didn't get in time, there were no seats to be had, especially if it was a Leontine Price or someone else there doing the master class. So, as Terri told you, Dr. Shirley, Izakai Savage, and myself, I wanted to find a way to give back to students of color who didn't have, I'm originally from New York. And when they talk about music, especially classical music, they say you have to go to New York. You have to live in New York. HBCUs are not in that area. So having access to someone that looks like you, that is already in the business that you want to be in yourself, having someone come to you and see them, you see them on television, you see them all over, you see them, you buy tickets to their concerts, but having them come to your school and in this particular way, having them come for free to your school, there's no cost to your school, to give you their information. I thought that was the ultimate thing, the most ultimate thing that I could do to give back to students who are in classical music. Yeah. So these collaborations, these partnerships between nonprofit organizations and HBCUs are very, very, very important. We can make a difference down the line, for sure.
And I just want to echo just the excellence of the music programs of our historically black colleges and universities. I just want to make sure, not take for granted, everybody knows what that acronym means. But at Virginia State, I went to school in my hometown. Virginia State University is located in Petersburg, but I got the education that I probably never could imagine. And I was so fortunate because in that environment, my black professors took the time to deal with, the theory and the things that I did not have the training for. Because a lot of times, and let's be honest, we start in the church, we're singing by rote, singing gospel songs by ear, but we don't necessarily have the theory background. And then when I went to graduate school, I was more thankful because I saw that in that setting, a lot of times the people who didn't look like me in that setting were not going to take the time to say, oh, Patrick, you don't know what a diminished strip is, you don't know what this is, and so forth. So I think that special attention to detail in that family environment at the HBCU is critical, especially in the arts arena.
Yes, exactly.
The original question was community-based organizations, not just arts organizations, right? So those of us who are not in arts organizations have something to contribute. So I'm curious to ask the panel, what other opportunities does our community have to support a program like this, even if they're not teaching the art or they're directly connected to the art, right? I heard you say you get a letter every week from Yale, or an email, right, every week from Yale. There's something to be said about how you package yourself and communicate. So part of our role with this 911 is artists need more than what they get in the school, which is the training to do the craft, but the business of the craft. So this is an opportunity for folks who are not in the arts to step forward. So what kinds of things can you imagine would be beneficial for artists coming out of it?
Something I learned this week watching, I was here last week, I spoke at the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival last Monday, and I went to the documentary on Hampton. And I know from my HU license sisters and brothers, they probably, why did you in Hampton? But there's a rivalry between Howard and Hampton. It's kind of silly, but I went to watch it. We said we would go HU to their Hampton Institute, but I went and watched this documentary and it blew my mind. And one of the things that Jesse Jackson Jr. said in the documentary, he said, you have to look at how the white institutions, they were ran like businesses for centuries. The black institutions, we were traditionally not, probably in the last 20 years, like Harvey Hampton, the brother that runs Howard, they started running like a corporation. And the reason that's critical is because if you run it like a corporation, you understand it's about the dollars, you understand it's about the alumni, you understand like Yale does with their $30 billion. Yale has a $30 million endowment, Howard has $900 million.
Wow.
That's the comparison. I think we're at 900, you're on our run now, 900 or so million. Spelman's at, I think, 400 million, and Hampton's at about 450. Yale and Harvard each have $30 billion in their endowments. $30 billion. The 200-year start. No, but my point is that they run these things like a corporation, so they understand in the fine arts department that we have celebrities out here doing it and non-celebrities out here doing it behind the scenes. Like she said, you got people, band leaders, tour directors, musicians, they're alumni. You got to pull them in because those are the jobs. Every Chadwick, there's 50 people doing these jobs. So that's what I learned in that documentary, that our HBCUs got to really start running these colleges or institutions like a corporation, like a Fortune 500.
Without losing that family.
Without losing
But my question has always been, because we've been now with the Coalition of African Americans in the Performing Arts for almost 20 years, and it's always been a question, how do we tap into Black wealth? Those individuals who may have the resources of our own community. What we have found traditionally, many times, white audiences will give more to the arts. You know, we did a study, we found out the first thing for nonprofits when people donate is religion. That's at the top of the donation scale. The second one is health and wellness. Way down at the bottom. Guess what? Guess what it is?
The arts.
It's the arts. So take that and then put the arts at the bottom and then tap into where is our Black wealth, who we can look at and find to help us and to partner with our organizations. And that has always been a challenge. And I'm so grateful to Jolie because I feel that all of you can write a check tonight for her organization. It's just a few months old. And to support each other. And you know, we have that kind of reputation. You know what I'm talking about? In our community when it comes to supporting each other. And I think it's time now to take a hard, fast look at how we look at the arts. Jesse Norman came out of an HBCU. Leontine Price came out of an HBCU. These are stellar, top of the field sopranos and mezzo in our industry. But how many of you support the Leontine Price School in Augusta, Georgia? How many of Jesse Norman. So, you know, these are things that we as a population, as a community, really should begin to think about where we can go to tap into these resources and how we can help promote these young artists who just performed. And organizations such as CAAPA, such as HBCU Arts, and be able to push us ahead in getting those individuals seen and heard.
I just want to echo that whole notion of the business action. That's very important. I know that when I was a voice major, I just knew I was going to be all over somewhere singing, you know, Purcell and Handel and Bach and with a harpsichord. And then life happened, and I didn't know how to necessarily, you know, accurately balance my checkbook or promote myself. And I think the blessing of this age is now something that I said years ago when I was in California at a conference. You are your own PR. That's what I always tell artists. Because now you have the advantage of being your own publicist. I'm not trying to put publicists out of jobs, but I'm saying that on social media you can do a lot more than what people, you don't have to wait for somebody for you to toot your, horn. And the horn just beat, but I'm about to say that. Toot your own horn, you don't have to wait, you're going through social media. But that business aspect is so vital to having a vital career, because you can sing all day and you can play all day, but if you can't have food in your refrigerator and live comfortably, then your art suffers at the expense of that.
I just want to ask your original was what the community do. What you're doing right now. You attended this event to find out, get more information. I was just finding wherever area you live to find that nonprofit, that organization that is helping students of color, musicians of color in your area. Volunteer if you can. Have a soiree or a gala, sponsor a gala to raise money for that particular organization. There's many things you can do. Attend a concert if you know this student, or even attend a senior recital. Someone who's in the area that's at a local HBCU where you are, and they're having a senior recital. You never know. That person that you're watching on stage may be on the stage of Metropolitan Opera someday. So anything you can do, whether it be your time or your checkbook or your influence with other people to help the organizations that are locally in your area. I think that would be a great thing.
And I want to add to that, right? Your skill set. Because
yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned just now that when you graduated, you thought you'd be doing this thing, but you found out I need to be my best PR. So someone out here has that skill set, offering it to an artist to say, let me do something for you. Just one little something that'll get you going, or let me help you get to that audition you're trying to go to, or let me help you get your instrument tuned, or let me pay for a dance class. Being
summer program overseas when they go to Italy to sing or play.
You kind of get back to money, but
yeah.
Skill sets are also very, very valuable. So we're grateful you're here and thinking about it. How you can contribute. Okay. So engaging these folks, right? What is that transferable something that artists need to know? Hey, when you graduate or when they are first in the industry, when we're enjoying those new artists in the world, right? I went to see MJ, it was amazing, and I thought, this little guy's like 6 and he's amazing already. But watching artists and thinking about what they bring and what they need to know. They've got the skill, they're on stage and watching, but what they need to know, right? You said I need to know how to market myself. But what is that golden nugget that applies to all of us, right? I love when you said you have to be your own best, fill in the blank. That applies to every person in here. You've got to be your own best, whatever that is. So I'm curious, what is the thing that you feel like artists need to know when they first enter the industry, or even those of us who've been in a long time, you got to remember this thing that may apply to others as well?
One of the most transformative moments that I had as a student at Virginia State, being in this room with all music majors who looked like me. And I remember we had this thing called seminar. A seminar where you either perform or it's kind of a Masterclass or something like that. And one of the seminars, they played this documentary called The Road Duet. It features the soprano Kathleen Battle and the trumpeter Wendy Marcellus. And so anybody who knows me knows that Kathleen Battle is like my favorite. I'm just saying, you can't say anything about her.
Her birthday was yesterday.
Yes, it was. And so I'm saying all that to say is that the image that these two black artists, just the excellence that they, even before Mr. Marcellus played the trumpet or this battle over her mouth to sing, it was just the image of just professionalism and poise. And all of us in that room really looked at that documentary to see them, hey, we want to aspire to this level. It was just, it's such, and you have to see it. But the point that I was getting to, that documentary, they get down to the nitty gritty, the behind the scenes of all of the intricate practice and Miss Battle making him rice and the rice is sticky or something like that. You have to just watch the documentary. It's on YouTube. But it's amazing to see all that intricate interaction of that. not just the musical aspect, but the interpersonal skill that you have to have as a musician, because you have to know how to get along with people. That's the bottom line. You know, when you're in those rehearsals, you're having these sensitive moments, it is crucial. So I think the personal relationships definitely add to that as well.
That's correct, yes. I agree with that. But you know, when you go back to 2020, March 2020, what happened? The pandemic. And I think in many ways it was transformative for a lot of our Black artists, both aspiring artists, emerging artists, seasoned artists. Because what it did to us is I'm not a musician, and as our roster list, we found out that they were not performing. Everything was shut down, as you know. But what we had to do was we had to pivot. And we had to create ways, and all of us did this in some way, shape, or form. We had to create ways to stay relevant, to stay in front of the public's eye. And some of that went back to what you were saying, Angela, with regard to marketing, getting out there, because a lot of our young people started to market themselves via the internet, and different ways to do it creatively. I'm not a virtual person. But, you know, I respect our young team that we have on staff who are able to do those kinds of things and be able to market themselves in a way that never had been done before. And people are seeing them and recognizing them in a way that I would guarantee you, each one of these young artists that just performed, they are on Twitter, they are on, what is it, TikTok, Instagram, Instagram, whatever it is. They're doing it. And, you know, it's a new way of life now. So a lot of ways that we market is now through the internet. And I think that was one way that even our organization is connected, because there's CAAPA, we had to get out there. We had to say relevant. That's where our chair of the board came in, and he just said, this is what we need to do as our strategic advisor. This is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. And it was all transformed into something that helped to catapult us to another level. So I think that was a way that we can be relevant and continue to help our young artists and our HBCU artists.
I think the people agree.
Before I answer, can you just say the question one more time for me? The question.
Thank you.
Yeah, the question, yeah.
What skills do we feel students coming out, or those of us who are still in the industry, need to have or access or help us to continue to grow, that are things that apply no matter who you are?
Right. My first, what I tell students who are, or any emerging art students or whoever, know who you are. Know who you are as a person, as an artist. Don't compare your trajectory to someone else's. Everyone's road is different. If this person gets the gig and you don't, that's okay. You will get your gig either at the next audition or the one after that. When it comes to this career, I wish someone had told me earlier, don't put all your eggs into one basket. It's wonderful to have a singing career, but in this day and age, not back then was a total, when me and Team, Jesse, all of them were coming up, it was a different ball game, completely different ball game. We cannot take what happened back then and bring it to now. It's different altogether. Have another skill set, not just singing. You can still be creative and not just have a singing career. Because as it stands right now, you can't just have a singing career. You have to have something else. So anything, think of what you do well that you can monetize. That's what I tell my students. If you can bake, then bake pies. If you can teach, if you can teach piano, voice, do that. But always have something that's going to, one, keep you creative and also bring in revenue. This is the second time the arts suffered in the past, I want to say, almost 20 years. The first time had nothing to do with the disease. It was the real estate bubble. When the real estate bubble burst, a lot of art organizations like symphonies, opera companies, small closed, completely closed, and have not come back. So that was I was part of that. I learned my lesson from that and made sure with the pandemic hit, I had another revenue stream coming in. So I hope the students learn that. But yeah, know who you are as an artist. You don't have to sing everything. You don't have to take every job just because someone is paying you. It's about longevity, not becoming a star.
Yeah. And I think that definitely, but that definitely applies to all of us, right? We learned with COVID. It can be good to have a second thing that you do in case the first thing says you can't do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then doing something that you love to help with our mental health all throughout the COVID experience.
So I used to tell artists similar to what you said. 3 things. I tell them stay hungry. Even those friends and people who we have in play right now, I tell them stay hungry. Don't get caught up with all the fanfare of this moment. Like I'm already working on 2025, 2026. Even though this one is selling out everywhere, my mind is already there.
Yeah.
And I try to tell the artists and clients that you got in your head, which segues into knowing the trends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always reading the trends. What are they buying here? What's selling out? How is IT doing in the West End? How is Hamilton doing? How many tours do they have out for Hamilton? Like staying alert to what's going on in your industry and kind of knowing where it's going so you get up front. And the last thing kind of echoes what you said. I will sit with clients day one and I'll put a piece of paper in front of them and I'll say, draw me 5 boxes of things you think you can make money. Just draw me 5 boxes. I always tell them box it out. Clients are coming in and say speaking, teaching, production, real estate, and then a charity. And then we'll go through each box and flesh out what is the timeline, what's the budget you need, what's the staffing you need. And a lot of times, clients are either really, really well known. No one has ever sat with them like that. They sell a lot of records, or they're on a TV show, or they know how to play, or they're a great songwriter or producer, and they'll tell me all the time, no one has ever sat down with me and made me go and think out all these things. Everybody says multiple income streams. And I'm a guy that tries to live that in front of them. I sit with one of my clients and we asked him, what do you do? And I started writing out my own boxes. And then he realized over lunch, he's like, oh wow, you're an brilliant. I said, yeah, this is what we got to do for you. So that I'm here today, but I'm not beholden to the law firm. I'm not beholden to Chicago. I'm not beholden to London or a real estate interest or a nonprofit interest. Kind of everything is doing what it's supposed to do. And then you're just sitting down.
How many of us want to change our careers? Audience, any questions for this group? As you're thinking about those questions, feel free to come to the microphone right here, or you can stand and use your projection, diaphragmatic speaking. But we would love to hear from you guys in the last 10 minutes or so that we have while you're thinking about your questions. The one for you guys, what is that golden nugget we would like? All of us who came here, we're on the Vineyard. Many for vacation, didn't know we were coming. Some of us planned ahead and knew we were coming. But we chose to come into this space. What is that thing you'd like us to walk away with, thinking about, knowing about, considering, right? I love call to actions because that makes sitting here for an hour even more valuable, right? What do I leave with? So is there any...
Well, I would think that, the name of this seminar, this panel, is called 911 HBCUs. And I think that lies in our youth. We've got to pay attention as grandparents, as parents, as aunties, uncles, godparents. We've got to pay attention to what our youth are doing. And that, I believe, is very, very important to our future and where our trajectory goes, our continued sustainability in the industry, whatever it is, Broadway, opera, whatever it is, if it's the arts. If you see, I'll give you an example. CAAPA has a summer camp, free of charge. We have 85 students for 3 weeks. We have dance, music, theater, and visual arts. We just finished. Pamela, give her a hand. She's the director of the CAAPA camp. Out of that camp, in the dance department, there was a young lady who was dancing. The dance teacher, this is 2 years ago, The dance teacher recognized this natural talent. She had never danced before. But she was here on our stages, and she recognized his talent. And guess what we did? We contacted the Washington Ballet, and now she is in the school, the Washington School for Ballet. She auditioned for that, and we helped her to get in. And this is a young lady, we're thinking that she's going to be the next Missy Copeland, because Missy Copeland didn't start ballet until she was 13 at the Boys and Girls Club of America. And those children, untapped talent, natural, raw talent, if you see it, recognize it, help to cultivate it. Because there may be, as Angela said, the next Metropolitan Opera star, the next Kennedy Center Opera star, the next attorney, the next arts journalist. So, these are the things that we can tap into. Now, 911, it starts young.
Hold on to your nugget. Let's have a question.
Yay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angela Williams, traveling from Atlanta, Georgia.
ATL in the house.
My son started out as a music major, so what you all touched on as far as additional skill sets kind of resonated with me. So I'm curious to know from any of you, as we mentor young people going into college, going into HBCUs, and they say, I want to major in music, I want to major in voice. If we want to encourage them to get these additional skills, would you recommend that we encourage them to minor in something? And what are some of those minors that they could think about as a music major?
Well, I will say this. Being an undergrad in music is really hard. Having a minor is added stress. So unless there's something they're really, really, really good at. Excuse me. Let's give someone else to talk.
I'm jump in. So this is at Virginia State, not just to plug my school. But as I mentioned, I taught at my alma mater, and we have a Bachelor of Music program. We also have a Bachelor of Arts program. And there's a focus where there's like a business acumen to it, so it's a music business. So not only do you just do like your core classes, your music theory and your lessons, it's coupled with those business classes. So that might be something that you can go out and have like a more broader career in mass communication, something of that nature. So that might be an avenue. I understand what you say about the minor, as Angela said, the minor can be that added stress, because you still have to take those music courses on top of those classes that's qualifying you for that extra area. But I also want to talk to something, speak to something rather that you mentioned. Sometimes, and I'm speaking, I'm going to put it on me so that way no one would take any blame for what I'm about to say. I would say from my experience, what I experienced was I was blessed that when I was coming up, I had mentors who really groomed me in classical music. I remember my dear mentor, he said, one day we had a meeting and he said, Patrick, if you want to be a serious musician, you need this book. Now, any music people here, it's this orange and gold book, and I got that book, and then later I would know it would be the history of Western music. As you know, Western by Donald J. Brown, now it's called Norton. So this is like the definitive anthology of classical music. If you're going to study music, you have to know all these Western European composers, and so on. The point that I'm getting to is that often when black students come with a raw talent, as Terri spoke to, from the church, we recognize that talent in the church and we give God glory for it. But then we get to the academic setting, it's like, oh no, we're not supposed to do this. It's Bach, Handel, Mozart, Strauss, Wagner, and that gets like pushed all the way down. So I would just like to see that, even in our HBCUs, that we more or less embrace all of those other art forms. Also, what Terri said, that our young people are doing like rap, spoken word, all that thing, and see how we incorporate those things into the music career. But I think that those areas like mass communication, business administration, or music business, that might be an avenue as opposed to just a strict music degree. Bachelor of Arts or B.
How old is your son?
Well, so actually, funny you should ask, he ended up changing his major because he was also an athlete, and his school, which is an Ivy League school, discouraged him from majoring in music because he was an athlete. Go figure. So he ended up changing his major.
major. He's 25 now. Unfortunately, he didn't pursue the major that he wanted. Matter of fact, I don't know if you know Dr. Craig Robertson.
Yeah, we were in college choir together. He's the new director of choral activities at Virginia State.
So Craig Robertson was his high school choral director.
Oh, wow.
And Dr. Robertson encouraged him to go into music.
You know what? My thought is this. Eventually, it's probably going to be inevitable in some way that your son will find that passion back again for music, and it will come back in another way, perhaps through a nonprofit arts organization. You know, he may work with young children, you know, and help to mentor them. And I would say to keep him encouraged as far as his music is concerned, because music, if we can all think about music very, very young. What was the first song that we all were taught? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, help me out. H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now I know my ABCs. Everybody has a different ending to that song. But anyway, you know, we all learned music. That's a part of us. Even if we can't hold a note, it's a part of us. And that should be nurtured no matter what. And it may manifest itself in, like I said, joining the HBCU Arts Organization, joining CAAPA, starting your own arts organization, working with young people, whatever it might be, working with broad, you know, whatever it might be. You know, and each of you can probably say, I love the art. You know, I was discouraged of playing the violin because it was considered too, you know, that sort of thing. But keep the faith.
Can I ask you a question? He's in the athletic department now. He changed his major.
He actually ended up straying away from both.
Oh.
Yeah, so, you know, he had struggles with the athletics and he had struggles with being a music major and an athlete.
Well, he's a voice major?
So now he's a public health major, just focusing on public health.
Okay.
But he's a voice major,
He's a voice major.
and he's a classical singer.
Really? Okay. I think he eventually it will go back. It never leaves you. Now, can you give me an idea of what his frustration was in the music department?
He was impacted by the administration.
I see.
You know, because the athletic practices conflicted with music labs.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he had to make a choice, and they said, well, change your major.
Yeah. And this is where I go back to know who you are. Know who you are. And as a college student, you have all these voices coming to you in 10 different directions. I completely understand. But it will come a time when he knows who he is, and if music is what keeps coming back to him, his path will go in that. They go back in that direction. But I wish him the best of luck. I really do.
You share his golden nugget with us, if you'd like us to leave it.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Okay.
Know yourself as a musician. Know what you can do and what you can't do. Just because you can sing the aria, O Patria Mia, doesn't mean you can sing the whole room. At 20 years old. That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying now. But know yourself as a musician. Treat your music as a business. When they took the business courses, those business courses will help you down the line when it comes to your contracts, your fee negotiations, working with an agent, your taxes, all your finance, all that stuff will be to your benefit down the line. So if you can be an undergrad music, and then somewhere down the line maybe be a graduate of business, or if you can do both, then do both. But know yourself as a person and as a musician, and it will never fail you. Never fail you.
Thank you. I want to do my nugget, but I do want to say to my honorary auntie, stand up real quick. I don't want her. Yes, I'm embarrassed you. She's 75. She's been coming here for over 40 years. She raised one of my dear fraternal brothers, so I just call her Maggie, and she has been like showing me around the island for my first time. And So she stopped her schedule to come out here today after Delta luncheon and everything. So I want to publicly say thank you. 75?
Yeah.
Come on, come on. So, I feel good here for the elders. Now, someone said to me earlier, Martha's Vineyard, for a lot of people, is their happy space. Someone said it to me earlier today. They said people come here, they call this kind of their happy space. So I'll segue to answer your question. My nugget would be, as you leave here and you look at what you're doing and what your dreams are, find your happy space, but understand there are seasons for everything. So if you go into a major, like I went through for law, but I do civil rights law. And now we're moving in all these other seasons, and I had to accept that sometimes your happy space entails walking out of one door and walking through another, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you're happy. I don't make money every time I go see these plays, but I just enjoy watching the process. And clients will call like, where are you? You're talking about something, but I'm realizing like the happy space is where we have to kind of leave this island and go back home and try to keep what we have up here. This beautiful feeling I've seen here for 2 weeks. Take that back to Atlanta where I am, New York, Texas, LA, wherever you are, and just realize you control that season. You control what you decide to do. And a little bit of faith, a little bit of grace, a little bit of God's mercy, He will do all the other things for you. If you say, I'm supposed to be a singer, I'm supposed to be a classical trainer, I'm supposed to be a mezzo, or whatever it's supposed to be, God kind of does that. I knew nothing about these lanes I'm running right now. And I didn't share all of them because time is time. But I'm in a lot of lanes now that I never saw I would be in 2 years ago. But it's finding a happy space. So that would be another element that you have to find. I think I needed to see Martha's Vineyard for years. For Martha's Vineyard veterans here, don't get insulted. But for years, I was like, I'm back from school days, Lawrence Fishburne character, and we don't go to Martha's Vineyard. That's not what we do being from Howard. They won't protest up there, we'll come to Martha's Vineyard. We going to be those black folks. For years, I was like, kind of thought that way, and then I came up here and I had on some khakis and a pink shirt, some loafers, and a girl said, you look like you've been here for a long time. Because somebody was supposed to be back. But I say all that to say, leaving here, that's what I feel I'm supposed to go back home with. That this whole energy is supposed to transcend when I get back home and get others to get the exposure as well as keep the happy place.
Brother, I must come back to what you just said because you mentioned giving these final words of things to ponder, and the thing that you just said was for me, and that's a season. It's a season for everything. And you mentioned a magical number 2. As I mentioned, I had the opportunity to return to my alma mater, and I served there for 2 years as interim director of core activities. And it was a great thing. It was everybody, they don't get the opportunity to go back there to school, and I'm thankful for that. But that chapter closed, and 2 new doors opened. So we don't know what God has in store for us. I just thank you for that. And I would just say, just to echo that, and I would say that would be my closing thing to everything that's a season.
Amen. Amen.
So, Driven Theater Company has as part of its vision that everyone who engages with art that we are a part of is challenged to move, think, or feel. Right? You may not leave here and change the world, but at least perhaps you are thinking about something, or you've been moved by something you've heard, or had a feeling that you didn't come in with, but you leave with something different. So we are grateful to these folks for being involved with HBCU Arts and participating on this panel, and even more so for you for coming out today to support this effort and the whole project. And one of my questions that I didn't ask is, why here on Martha's Vineyard? And for me, that is relates to the excellence and the joy, the pride that I see people have here. And as this project HBCU Arts comes back next year and then moves to other cities, we will carry that with us and hope that it continues to grow. But that can only happen with your support, so please donate and tell people about HBCU Arts, and we will see you next year, we hope. And the concert, go ahead.
There's 7 o'clock.
Yes.
The concert is tonight. There's fabulous singers and musicians. So if you're around, or you know people around, come back to the chapel, and they can really be blessed.
Yes. Thank you all for coming out today. Enjoy the rest of your day.